For anyone that is in the Central Arkansas area, we do have a couple positions we're working on. A noteworthy one is an internship with one of our employer partners, PCA. So if you know of anyone interested in the hardware help desk side of the house, we'll add our link to our career site. And let's kind of jump in.
Okay, guys, so today we're going to be talking about analyst versus developer. And I know that the invitation to our webinar had someone at the Crossroads, but I just kind of want to just forget about the Crossroads, because it's not about the road less traveled by, but think of these two as two respected mitochondria, right? They are both the powerhouse of the cell of a business. Data science, a data analyst kind of focuses more on gathering and processing data, where a developer focuses on the development of the application and features for users. And then I call them the mitochondria respectfully, because the analysts would kind of talk to the business side of the people and trying to figure out future forecasts, different trends of the day, where the developers were kind of talk to maybe some database admins or some cybersecurity people. Both are very, integral to the business and how to make them both flow good. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the two today. So is an analyst the right route for you? Remember, they're both equally important. So let's ask some questions before applying for the analyst role. Do you find yourself loving or loathing spreadsheets? Well, if you love spreadsheets, you might be a data analyst. Do you find yourself always coming up with a monthly budget? Are you an Excel spreadsheet budget? Are you a Dave Ramsey every dollar budget person? You might be a data analyst. Do you like finding patterns in the trends, knowing this is going to be very popular at this time based on these types of activities within the market and consumer behavior? You might be a data analyst. There's a saying that says that you can't trust people, but you can trust numbers. Do you always double and triple check your work? You might be a data analyst. Are you one that won't decide on something till the numbers make sense? You might be a data analyst. So let's continue on this route on whether or not data analyst is right for you. So data analyst kind of separates into two different types of roles. You have a data scientist and you have a data analyst. They're not the same. So let's dive into the data scientist. I know I talked about the mitochondria earlier, and I know that's a science term, but we're going to stick with that for a second. Because think about the data scientist truly as doing the science aspect of data. And so you're probably wondering, how do you do science with data? Well, just like in science, where they're telling you to come up with the hypotheses and do the steps to figure out what's my hypothesis to try to prove this. That's what a data scientist does. They're also in the market of trying to come up with crazy machine learning. So think about your AI, we all know the typical story, you're thinking about a red dress and then all of a sudden Facebook has a red dress available, dillards.com, your Google's telling you stuff. It's how does that happen? That's all AI. That's stuff like that. So data scientists kind of do that. They use type of skill sets that they use Python and R and statistics. They also use we call it SQL or SQL. So just trying to figure out how to use data to project the future trends of the day, whether that be in marketing, health, automation. Data scientists are very much so needed. So then let's look at the data analyst side. They more so kind of look at the trends, kind of working on we talked about the business side of it, kind of taking a company, for example, and saying hey, what is the trend in this? So think about the season in which we're coming up with right now. We're coming up on football season. So think about what all do football people like to do? The wings are probably going to increase, soda, beer. They're looking at how do we properly stock our grocery stores? How do we properly stock our Sam's Clubs, our Costco? The data analyst is saying, hey, in this type of the season, these trends kind of go up. So they like to do data manipulation and all of that. Now, the type of skills that a data scientist and a data analyst kind of use kind of go together. You'll see them both kind of using Python and R. A data analyst might use Excel or Google spreadsheets or something like that. And they still might use SQL. Now, SQL has totally different branches. You have NoSQL, MySQL, or MS SQL, but kind of some type of chart gathering to project the data. So those are the differences.
You had a flashback, talking about AI. Isn't it crazy that your Alexa, or how do they automatically, I think I was, talking to my kids about, cleaning up after themselves. And all of a sudden I get this ad on Facebook for, Audible on how to get your children to help out at home. So, it's crazy at, how much advancement, and of course in the world of technology everything's always changing, but data scientists and really AI are changing how we work. They're never going to get rid of jobs, because data scientists, this is pretty high end, like some crazy advanced statistic, machine learning. It's just really optimizing how we work. Whether that's lead generation or ads, it's just pretty cool.
Okay, so the next part is the different types of niches within really the analyst role. Data scientists kind of stay the same, but within an analyst, you can branch out. So the business analyst is probably one of the most popular ones. I like to think of them as a liaison. So the business analyst can, in this case, the developer is really important. The business analyst can talk to the developer. The developer has some type of words and diction that like totally may go over, Mr. Walmart's head, for example. But the business analyst knows how to take those words like, oh my goodness, like database and programming and code and the Java format, and take that and translate it to a way in which Mr. Walmart CEO may know. They also then can take Mr. Walmart's information and properly relay it to the developers. So it's the business analyst that kind of works closely with really both of them and acting as so much of a liaison. Some of the skills that this person may have is strong business acumen, problem solving, and good communication skills. Because remember, I think they're really important about being the liaison, presenting information to speak the language to or for the business. So then you have the marketing analyst, which kind of looks at the marketing strategies, measuring campaign performance, and conducting market research. So think about my Super Bowl or my football example that's coming up. Like they're seeing like, hey, like we're transitioning into a fall season. Everyone's going back to school. What kind of gets the people going? It's football. Think about how you've already been seeing a whole lot of football commercials already. Like I think I've seen a Josh Allen one the other day about DirecTV or Verizon, whichever one he was on. But that's all about like, hey, did this commercial bring in people to the business? Did this ad that we put on a billboard, did that attract anyone? So that's what a marketing analyst kind of does. And then you have a retail analyst. Those people would kind of be your people in the malls, even in the grocery stores, like I said, with wings, like do those go up? Do hamburgers go up? What's decreasing at that time as well? I think we always look at trends as an increase, but what's decreasing? So what can we minimize in our inventory that we probably aren't going to sell at this time? So just think about all these roles as running reports, raw data, and also data cleaning. So it's really important for all these roles. Another one that's really famous, and we don't have it up here, but don't forget about your supply chain analyst people. We all heard about that during COVID. The supply chain is running amok, whatever. But those are the people making sure that this truck gets to this position in the right amount of time to deliver everything. Also, okay, if we're going to have a truck, how much inventory needs to be in that truck? So we don't waste it, and stuff like that. So supply chain analysts are also very important in different types of niches that all relate back to being a data analyst.
Well, and especially with JB Hunt, guys, that's a huge employer from our state. And, someone made a comment the other day that, JB Hunt is really an information technology company, ghosted behind a, logistics brand because to really, optimize their trucks and their profitability, they have to have a, very robust team of analysts to ensure that they are at capacity and, just from a geographic, location and territory. But now, at least share with us what your role previously was. What type of analyst were you and kind of those job duties and focus?
I was more of a developer. In my role, I was more so a full stack developer. So I know you're probably going to get into it, so I don't want to answer it right now. But in my full stack developer role, I was a combination of all things. And Ashley's going to talk about it, but I was a front end, back end, and part of a QA role as well. So yeah.
Well, and that kind of leads us into, talking about every company, big, small, kind of uses job titles a little different. So, please know that, when we use, developer or software engineer, it's going to vary by industry and, really the size of the company on how focused it is. So, take this as kind of grain of salt and kind of speaking in general terms. But all right, so transitioning to the amazing developers. And Elise shared a lot of different career tracks within the analytics space that, yes, are a little mathy. Statistics is a great foundation, but really for both. So if you're kind of torn on developer versus analyst, I want you to think about what excites you most when it comes to building or discovering new. Developers really are building, creating something, and still using the same type of logic, problem solving, critical thinking, but kind of thinking on the difference and questions to ask yourself. Are you task oriented? Do you like to have a clear line of step one, step two? Do you enjoy, crossing those things off on your to-do list and checklist? It's a little more kind of linear in regards to day-to-day work and your areas of focus on the programming development side of the house. Another kind of key difference is in development, you have a lot more flexibility on creativity. And we'll kind of talk about the website and the UI UX side of the house. But if you are more on the creative side, maybe you were an art minor, graphic design minor, that would be kind of a great blend within the programming development side of the house. All right, job titles. You say tomato, I say tomato, you say developer, I say engineer. Again, it's really going to vary based on company and the specific department. Obviously look at those job descriptions and job duties to see specifically what the technologies that they're using and kind of what department they are supporting. But kind of in general terms, when I hear software developer, that is creating some type of product or service for multiple end users versus anything with the term engineer, whether it's software engineer, data engineer, they're very much focused on streamlining, optimization, looking at how scalability across multiple departments or multiple, components and really how to streamline getting things there faster and solving problems for those end users. Tech stack, pretty much, it's going to be a lot of overlap. Both are going to look at, Java, Python, Swift, JavaScript, Ruby, Ruby on Rails if you're going kind of more on the legacy side of the house. But at the end of the day, those job titles are really interchangeable. But the key takeaway, developer versus analyst is the building component. And if building excites you, more than discovery analysis, digging in raw data, looking for correlations analysis, the developer side may be the right fit. Kind of going back to the business acumen. Any type of analyst is going to be looking into data, which is the truth, to make meaningful business decisions. And I'm not saying every data analyst has to be what we would call client-facing or comfortable in presentations or boardroom meetings, but to a certain extent, especially if you're a business analyst, you do have to have that confidence, the ability to translate your findings, not get too technical depending on your end user or the department that you're supporting, and explain what the data shows and how it can solve kind of more of a defined problem. So different flavors of development. So your front-end developers, those are typically, I almost classify them a little more fun because it's more colorful. You get to look at, different variations of design, so that graphic design component. We've seen individuals from marketing or graphic design backgrounds transition easily into more of a front-end developer type of role. But they're, really focused on, whether it's websites or, even an application on a mobile, kind of looking at the performance and different interfaces. There's still going to be overlap. They're still going to be working with, configuring different APIs, getting data sets, but kind of in general terms, think of the front-end developers more as the colorful, creative side in programming. All right, so your back-end developers, and I'm sorry, but they kind of get a bad rap or stereotype of not being, extroverts, preferring to be behind the scenes, working on computer or programming, slinging code versus being in a meeting and talking with business owners. But they are so needed because, for the website or the service to be functional, the backend has to work. It has to collaborate with the IT security team to ensure everything is compliant, that you don't have any hackers coming in trying to steal your data. So definitely a backend developer is going to have more of the exposure to your DBAs or your IT security teams, often working with some of those legacy systems maybe. They could be doing, off-the-shelf software as well. But think about legacy systems in regards to the United States government or state agencies. One employer that we've worked with in the past is DXC, who supports, I don't know if it's the Medicaid or Medicare system, but they deal a lot with these kind of older legacy systems, doing updates, batches, ensuring that it all works. All right. And then going back to the more fun kind of design, they're all fun, but UI, UX. And this, is a developer role that is really kind of new in regards to having a designated department or a designated job title or area of specialty. So the user experience is very important when it comes to a website that's selling something. You want them to add to cart and to complete the transaction to be able to increase your revenue. UI UX also has a little bit of data research and statistics sprinkled in. Your big corporations like Walmart and Target, they invest a lot of research into what color should our add to cart button be? How should it be presented? Um, you know, even down to, what products it's going to, recommend if this is out of stock, how it really looks from the user, the shopper, um, and really look at, all right, mobile capability, wireframes, kind of seeing what the website looks like on a mobile device, and really ensuring that it is seamless and the end user has all the necessary information they need to get to their desired results. Figma, CSS, HTML are some other noteworthy items. Currently right now we have a great free resource that I think is on the next slide, but spoiler alert, I'll kind of jump in. The Google Career Certificate, 100% free, has a UI UX certificate that does a great job on, in a short module setting, all online, self-paced, kind of walk through the different interfaces, components, and then kind of gives a great tutorial on what wireframing is all about. Now, Elise, did you have a really good example on kind of the difference between back end, front end?
Yes. So I always like to use the example of Facebook, for example, or any social media website you can think of. But let's just use Facebook, for example. So Facebook, you log in, facebook.com, and you got to type in your username and password. But before you do, you see that signature blue that they have, the F that is a little like the cross is like a little elongated. I don't know. But all of that is a front end developer who designed that. A front end developer designed where the username and the password was going to go. Now, then they also added the little toolboxes where you put in your respected username and password. So let's say you type it in, my name dot last name at gmail.com, and then your password. Well, it's the back end that kind of calls that when you hit that submit button, the back end information data is coming and making sure, okay, do we have this email address? Yes. And do we have this password for this email address? Yes. So once you hit the submit and once the back end does all of its computing and blah, 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 boom, you're in facebook.com on your profile. So then you log in and you're in, and everything that you see from the the feed being right there in the middle, that's all the front end has designed, making sure that they allow this much space between each one of your friends for all the posts that they've posted. You see the sliver on the left that it's changing every time, so I really can't remember what it is, but I think it's like, your saved stuff, any like your personal profile, that's all something that the front end person has developed. Now the back end person or the back end type of deal in all of this is every time you click, does the back end know to retrieve that data to pull up the new page respectfully? So if I want to look up Ashley's profile, for example, if I go into the search and type it in, they have to pull like, oh, yep, there's an Ashley French, this is her profile, and I got to pull her picture, all of her statuses, and back to all of that is the back end. And so then the backend developer really works with cybersecurity a little bit, making sure that this page or this person is doing everything that they can not to get hacked. How do we do this? How does that happen? Well, this is kind of where a QA may come into play, where a QA developer tests all things. And sometimes QAs and backends kind of get to fighting because it's the QA's job to try to break everything. And by doing that, it prevents the hacks. It prevents the cyber theft. It prevents the phishing emails that you could possibly get sent to your own email address. So that's kind of my front end, back end example, just using Facebook or any social media tool that you may know that has its specific layout and design. That's all the front end on the front and the back end on the back.
How would it be a QA tester? I mean, I would love to get paid to try to break something or to find an error. That is, another great kind of transition job getting into IT, a QA tester. I know First Orion in the past has hired for that often through the apprenticeship model. But that's another great job title that, you know, is a good transition into the developer space. All right. So again, kind of breaking down the similarities, kind of your different options. Both are going to use code, but the nature of how it is used is very different. Developers are going to build, create, where someone in an analyst role, it's more discovery on, you know, looking at the raw data, trying to figure out what the trends are. Developers typically have a little more focus in regards to, you know, spending time, you know, programming or debugging, going out on Stack Overflow, doing their research that way. As an analyst, you know, you're a little more limited on, you know, the discovery side of the house on, all right, so I know we want our end goal to increase sales, or I know we want our algorithm to, you know, analyze our, you know, target buyer or consumer behavior trends, or anything in our geographic territory. But creating and building versus the discovery and kind of digging into trends and analysis. But both are going to use code. If you're ever on the fence, when in doubt, I say study Python, because as you saw, it was absolutely on both sides of the house. You know, can't go wrong with that. And we do have a Google Professional Career Certificate within IT automation with Python. If you are interested, feel free to email us if you're not already in our program. You know, a few other kind of noteworthy websites that we wanted to give a shout out: Kaggle.com, Free Code Camp, Udemy.com, and HackerRank. And HackerRank is really cool because it's not just on, you know, development. It's got some really cool pen testing and IT security, you know, puzzles and challenges that you can do. And it even gets you a little rating. So lots of cool resources out there. All right, just one selfish plug on, you know, be sure to check us out and join us for our next webinar. We host these on a monthly basis. We will be talking about job fair survival and what to say, what not to say, and really how to optimize any type of event, whether it's a career fair or even a networking group, and how it can support your professional development and job search. Woo! All right. Let's chat. Questions, comments. Love to hear from you on how we can support, or anything interesting that you learned, or whether or not from us in your own research.
I have a question. I'm Karen Kelly. Thank you for putting this together. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Hey, Karen. Thanks for
good.
being a brave soldier.
So I've been kind of on a long path with this, and you guys have been working with me for a while. I'm doing the Google Analytics certificate now, and working on getting that completed, and have learned a little bit more about what software I'd like to learn after the fact to just kind of hone in on some of those skills. I'm currently in a quality assurance role, but more in a clinical setting. I work with clinical research for pharmaceutical medications that are looking to get on the market. But I see that there's a big overlap in those soft skills that would go into both of those roles. And even though I've learned from other people who, you guys, I believe have had some people who've presented on, in maybe a tech talk, folks that have been in quality assurance roles, maybe in manufacturing, that took that over into IT or data analytics. And so it's kind of hard for me to I see that there's a fit and I see that there's that carryover, but sometimes it's hard for me to see how that would work. Could maybe we discuss a little bit how you could make that transition from one career path to another with respect to quality? I know you brought it up a little bit, so.
Yeah, and I can kind of do it, in general terms, and also, kind of touching on what experience you've kind of mentioned. Especially in the analyst, when you just, as you're speaking in, you said QA, you said something about research, my immediate, data side of the house. So when we look at the different types of data analyst type positions, think of, what type of industry experience or what data do you know? Someone that not only can run the reports, pull it into fancy visualizations, but if they know, or if, in speaking in terms of you, if you know what that data actually means to the end user, that's like add additional value. So, I always like to think about, encouraging job seekers to, try to find, if possible, some related industry experience where it would be valuable in a analyst type role. So if your exposure has been in agriculture, finding out those employers that deal with that type of data and targeting those, and not just applying on their website. Nicola, I think last month or maybe the month before, did a really great webinar that's on our YouTube channel about using a mentor to assist your job search. So often it is who you know. So I know I kind of layered a couple of different, ideas and just kind of brainstorming through on looking at the areas or industries that you've been in, maybe not in a data analyst type role, but you have that industry knowledge that you can, use to your advantage to get the interview and kind of get your foot in the door. And team, feel free to jump in with any other thoughts or ideas to piggyback on.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, Philip, what's the most basic course for Python?
Code Academy has a really good step-by-step process in Python. It's free and then it's kind of not free, but I think their like intro to Python is. So what I like about Code Academy is that they kind of go through like, let's just say it's writing programming variables in Python. Well, it kind of walks you through like why you need variables in Python, gives you an example, and then kind of makes you do the example. And so you'll go through like 8 or 10 lessons of that, and then they'll kind of give you a project at the end trying to put it all together. But I like Code Academy for that. Udemy has really good courses on Python. But wait till they have sales. Do not buy anything that's over $50 on Udemy. Wait till they're like 10 or 12, and they do happen. But yeah, I think Code Academy would be great as a starter. And then once they start saying you need to pay, hop on over to Udemy.
YouTube and Google also have lots of free tutorials. It may not be as hands-on, but just for a foundational walkthrough as well. All right. Well, hey, Jamie, welcome. Glad we could help. Anything or questions or thoughts to help us on kind of directing career paths or next steps? for an analyst role, I mean, I think Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, working on, those advanced reporting features and formulas, I think is a great foundation. In addition to, kind of going back, if you have a statistics course, that's always a good one as well. Final call for questions, thoughts. All right, guys, thanks again. We appreciate your attendance and wish you the best. And, to steal from Elise, at the end of the day, it's, all about what's right for you, what excites you, and, the journey that gets you there. And we're here rooting along and here for support. Have a great rest of the day.